Everybody, and welcome to the Oaks Countdown on DRFTV. Nicole, Russo, and Dan Illman bringing you through the final countdown to the May 3rd Kentucky Oaks. And in this final countdown, we have a lot of changes kind of going on at the 11th hour as we look ahead to the entry deadline coming up this Saturday, April 27th. As we look at the points preference list for a spot in the 14-horse Oaks field, even though all the points races are complete, you'll notice some new names from last week. Regulatory Risk, who was on the board in the Gazelle, now back under consideration for the race after a good work in New York. They're going to see how she trains this week at Churchill Downs. Remember, the Connections, Klaravich and Chad Brown, were originally going to keep her out of the race to ensure Ways and Means a spot. Now that that is insured, they have a possibility of having two horses in this race. Another newcomer to the list, Manama Gold, the UAE Oaks winner. She's been transferred to trainer Todd Pletcher, who just got her into his barn at Churchill yesterday, going to see how she trains in these next couple of days before they decide if they want to supplement her to the Kentucky Oaks for a hefty fee on Saturday.
Manama Gold would certainly add a lot of spice to this year's Kentucky Oaks, Nicole. Not only is she a perfect 3 for 3 in the UAE, she's a Louisiana bred and a full to overcharged, one of the better Louisiana breds we've seen in recent years. A multiple stakes winner. She's won 12 of 15 overcharged, $608,000 in lifetime earnings. And if Todd and the Connections decide to supplement, they must think a lot of this one.
Yeah, and this is an interesting route that we've seen some Connections try to take in recent years from the UAE to the Kentucky Oaks. Manama Gold, as you mentioned, is undefeated and would add a lot of spice to the field. It's interesting the route her career has taken her on from her birthplace in Louisiana. She's a daughter of the great Louisiana bred stallion Star Guitar, to sales in Kentucky and Florida, to the Middle East to race, and now back to the Kentucky barn of Todd Pletcher.
So she is certainly well traveled, and as is the case with Regulatory Risk, she was second in the Gazelle last time out. It was sort of a coming out party for Regulatory Risk. It was her first two-turn race. She ended up with a career best Beyer speed figure of 84. And as you said, Ways and Means is already ensured a spot in the Kentucky Oaks. So why not take a chance with Regulatory Risk as long as she's training well for Chad?
Absolutely. And we're going to see both of those Klaravich and Brown fillies in the replays we're going to show you here. Let's discuss two of the major prep winners, Power Squeeze and Where's My Ring. They both won big prep races in this final round, but they're likely to be double-digit odds in this deep field we keep talking about.
You're absolutely right. And Power Squeeze's most recent performance is one we're going to take a look at. It's the Gulfstream Park Oaks. And even though this filly has done nothing wrong, she's won 4 in a row. She's 3 for 3 around 2 turns. She earned a 92 Beyer in this race. She sort of is still underrated because all the talk out of the Gulfstream Park Oaks was Ways and Means' seasonal debut and all of the trouble she had. Power Squeeze is a very tactical filly, as we can see from her past performances. She's the kind of filly that can adapt to any sort of pace scenario and work out her own trip. She's really good, and everyone's talking about Ways and Means.
Absolutely. And, the Gulfstream Oaks was the toughest field that Power Squeeze had faced to that point, as she defeated Ways and Means and defeated Into Champagne, who's another Oaks possibility. But before that, she had won a couple of minor stakes at Gulfstream and at Tampa. I like, the winning streak that she's been on. I like that she kept taking steps up in class and in distance and answering the question. But her Beyer speed figures are a little bit interesting to me because while she kept winning, you'll see that there's a pattern there between the Beyer going up and then down in the next race and then up again. And it makes me think that, she might be sitting on sort of that down step in her form cycle for the Kentucky Oaks, even though she kept winning.
That's a very good point, Nicole. And I think what all of our friends watching Oaks Countdown need to do is keep an eye on the Mike Welsh Clocker reports leading up to the Oaks and Derby. He'll tell us how Power Squeeze is doing leading up to the race. And if Power Squeeze is a little bit flat, maybe we could project this filly to perhaps regress or bounce off of the Gulfstream Park Oaks. But she'll be a price if you believe, and she's in very good form.
Another one who's going to be a price if you believe is Where's My Ring? And we'll watch her in the Gazelle going by Regulatory Risk in between horses there. And Hightail, who's another filly who will be in the Kentucky Oaks coming on for third. But Where's My Ring actually broke her maiden in the Gazelle after knocking on the door in some graded stakes in California. So clearly the ship across the country to Aqueduct was not a concern for her. And, moving to Kentucky, I don't think will be a problem for this filly.
I don't think so as well. And I love the fact that these connections have never lost faith in Where's My Ring. As you can see, they ran her in some tough spots as a 2-year-old, including the Breeders' Cup Juvenile fillies, while still only a 4-race maiden. They ran her in the Gazelle last time out. She has taken giant steps forward since being given blinkers. She feels pretty in the blinkers, and I like that she earned a 90 Beyer speed figure in the Gazelle. Now, what does it say about the Gazelle field that a horse coming in as a maiden was the favorite in that race, but Where's My Ring is doing everything right? There's another very tactical filly. I'm a little concerned that she may lack some of the upside of the others. She's already raced 8 times.
That's a very good point as well, especially when we have, kind of some lightly raced fillies really starting to come to hand in the Oaks, and horses that we expect to move forward off of their last start. Some of the favorites, of course, just FYI, Ways and Means will be coming into the Oaks as the second start of the year, and we talk about them having a huge amount of upside, versus, on the other hand, a filly like this who will be making her 4th start of the year off a career best in the Oaks.
You're absolutely right. I think I like to project upside with lightly raced horses, 3-year-olds, and we'll see if Where's My Ring can take one more step forward, because she will likely need to. This field is so competitive this year, and you have a little bit of everything. You've got classy horses like Just FYI. You have horses like Leslie's Rose and Tarifa, just naturally talented. Power Squeeze, who is a win machine. Ways and Means, who could be any kind. And Lemon Muffin, of course, I think we want to talk about for Mr. Lucas, who has already pulled off one big upset and would not be a surprise at all if she shocks the world in the Oaks.
Absolutely. Well, as we mentioned at the top of the show, a couple of these fillies are kind of under late consideration for the race. A lot will depend on how they train this week at Churchill Downs leading up to entry day on Saturday. As Dan said, check out those daily clocker reports and videos from our colleague Mike Walsh, who is now on the ground beneath Twin Spires, bringing you valuable insights into not just how fast these horses are working, but how they're doing it every day. Next week, we'll be able to bring you the final field for the Kentucky Oaks, and as well as some final projections on the race. Stay tuned here on DRFTV.